So, continuing our series about the writing process, we talked in another video about pre-writing. We discussed things like brainstorming, mind maps, writing a journal, free writing, talking with a friend, and the benefits and drawbacks of each one. So, uh, please keep that in your mind, keep that fresh in your mind as you plan your writing and as you decide what to write about and how to write it. This is important stuff, and if you have trouble thinking of ideas, then this is really important and it'll help you. So please go to the pre-writing video if you have problems with this. Today, we're not talking about that. We're going to move along to the next section, and that is in the introduction. There are three parts of a good introduction, and those are hook, background information, and thesis statement. Now, I was in theater when I was in university, and one of my theater teachers said that the most important minute of a play or a musical or a movie is the first minute. That was stressful for me because I had the opening lines of the play that I was in with him. But it's true that the first minute is the most important in a show, in a performance, but also in writing, because if you can't convince your reader to keep reading, you have failed as a writer. If you want to make your reader change their vote, but you can't get them to read, you're certainly not going to get them to change their vote. If you want to get your reader to recycle more, but you can't get them to read your writing, then you won't get them to recycle because you can't even get them to read why they should recycle, and so forth. So the beginning of an essay is really important because you need to get your reader's attention and you need to show them why what you're writing about is important. And this is where the hook comes in. The hook is a way of grabbing your reader's attention. And think about when you go fishing, you put a hook into the fish's mouth. And that is what grabs the hook so that it can't get away. So we're going to look at a few different types of hooks now. And this is all from notes from previous classes that I've taught. So there are a few different kinds of hooks that we can use. The first one is, there are a few different kinds of hooks you can use, but the most important thing to remember in all of this is to consider your audience. You need to think about your audience because different hooks and different methods work best for different audiences. This is true in a presentation as well. For a presentation, you've got to think about, for example, your fashion. If you wear a necktie with some audiences, they'll listen to you more. But if you wear a necktie with other audiences, they might think, oh, this person doesn't understand me. He's not like me. So it doesn't fit the audience. Choosing the right way to appear, the right way to get your reader's attention, the right way to talk to your reader will help you connect with the reader and show the reader you understand them, or it will make you disconnect with your reader, and then you've lost your opportunity to persuade your audience. Things like the types of arguments, the word choices, how long your sentences are, or how difficult your vocabulary is, all show your reader or your audience you have been thinking about them. Okay, so that's part of impressing your audience. That's part of getting your audience's attention is, do you speak their language? And I don't just mean their language like speaking Korean or speaking Chinese or speaking French. I mean, do you understand the way they think? Can you think the way they think? Can you talk to them in a way that they understand what you're talking about? Now, the best types of hooks create an emotional reaction. If you can get your audience to feel something, you have them. They're yours. That's not easy, But if you can make your audience laugh, if you can make your audience feel pity or touching emotions, you have them and they will listen to you. Okay. So here are some different hooks that you can use. And in the notes under the YouTube video, I'll put a link to this handout. Okay. The first one on the handout is a definition. You can use a definition. Just open your essay by defining a word. Now this is good because it shows that you did some research, and that can build trust with the reader. It is especially useful. It's especially useful if one of the very key ideas in your presentation is a difficult concept or is based on a difficult word. If there's a word that's in your presentation that's really important, maybe it's part of the main idea, but it's not a well-known word, or it's a word your audience might not know, then beginning with a definition is a good idea. This can also be useful in situations where there are words that have more than one meaning in different contexts. For example, a lot of words in politics like justice or freedom can have a very different meaning depending on who's using them. Okay. Some of the bad parts of a definition hook, often it's dry, and this is a really common type of hook. So people who read a lot of essays, for example, your professor, won't find a definition hook very interesting because it doesn't create a strong emotion either. Another good type of hook can be using a quotation, famous words from a famous person. This is a really useful one because, first of all, if you can quote a famous person, it creates the feeling that you are a reader, that you're intelligent or educated and knowledgeable. Second of all, if you can find an appropriate quote that fits your topic, a lot of quotes are beautiful, or very beautiful or very funny. So starting with a funny, witty thing that a famous person said a long time ago, or a very beautiful phrase that beautifully says the idea you're trying to say, that can be impressive because language can be beautiful. Another way that quotations can work is by using the emotion that we feel about the person who said the quote. So for example, these days everybody admires Steve Jobs and says he's a genius and an innovator. So if you quote Steve Jobs at the opening of your essay, a little bit of that feeling that we have about Steve Jobs, that, oh, Steve Jobs, he's great. A little bit of that feeling goes into your essay or into the reader's mind as they read your essay. So sometimes a quotation can be really useful. It creates a couple of emotions, sometimes just recognition when people recognize the quote or the person saying it. And as I said, we always want to create an emotional impression if we can in our hooks. And sometimes the emotion can be humor or even beauty if you find a really poetic or perfect quotation. The problem here is that it's hard to find that perfect fit quotation. And if you have a bad quote, it's hard to connect your quote to the topic. If you have to use a lot of words explaining your quote and then explaining how your quote connects to your topic, you're using up a lot of words, and that might make your essay really, really long by the end. So if you make a quote that's totally unknown, difficult to understand, or difficult to connect to your topic, your quote hook probably isn't working. Another good type of hook is a little known or surprising fact. A little known fact or a surprising fact means one of those pieces of information that makes people say, oh, I didn't know that. And that is the power of this hook too, is that, oh, really? I didn't know that. This is a really good hook if you can find a little known or surprising fact that's actually surprising. And if you can find one that connects to your topic, you're doing great. It shows that you did good research, which gives you a little respect from your reader, especially if your reader is an academic person. But the danger of this one is that if your listener knows the fact you're introducing, then this hook has totally lost its ability to make people say, oh, I didn't know that. So the wow is gone. Okay, now one way that you can do this is sometimes you can take a fact that people know and you can find a new way of saying it. For example, if you took USA's military spending every year and put it in 500 won coins, you could stack 500 won coins to the moon 2 times. Or if you took all of American military spending and put it into $1 bills, it would cover the whole planet Earth. Now, I'm not sure if that's true. I'm just making up these facts. But we've taken a fact that everybody knows and we've found a way to make it fresh again. Okay, so don't quote me on those facts. Those are almost certainly not true. I made them up. But finding a way to take a fact that people already know and say it in a way that's new is a good way to get your reader to go, oh, I didn't know that. Next hook. An opinion you plan to challenge. Okay, now for this hook, this creates drama, this creates tension. A lot of people say blah, 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 but I think that's not true. A lot of people think they shouldn't blah, 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 but they are wrong. This is a good hook because it's simple and it's surprising. So it catches your reader's attention very well, especially if the topic you choose is one that your audience disagrees with you about. This is an especially good one if you have an unpopular opinion or if you have an issue where people often kind of think they're right, but they haven't thought very much about it. Maybe they think that it's true mostly because everybody they know in their group thinks it's true, and they haven't really thought about it carefully. One example of this is that the fact that you have to drink 8 glasses of water a day is actually fake science. There's no scientific basis for 8 glasses of water rather than 6 or 9 or another number. Okay. So this is a good hook because it makes people curious. The dangers, and there are some, one is don't say most people think blah, 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 if most people don't think it. And remember that you don't need to give an opinion that most people believe. It doesn't need to be commonly held. It doesn't need to be a commonly held opinion. In fact, it's okay if the opinion is uncommon as long as it's well known. So it doesn't need to be an opinion everybody agrees, but it does need to be an opinion everybody knows about. Now that might be because, oh, this politician was in the news because she said blah, blah, blah. Or it might be, oh, there's this weird group of people who go to this church and they believe that blah, blah, blah. As long as everybody knows what people think in that church, or everybody has heard or read the news about that politician, then the opinion is well known enough that you can argue with it. The biggest danger of this one is don't insult your reader. You have to be careful because if your reader agrees with the opinion you're going to argue with, then you have to be careful that you don't call your reader foolish or stupid. So do be careful about that because people stop listening if they feel they are disrespected. And another thing is make sure that you are accurately representing the opinion you're arguing against. Because be sure to accurately represent the argument you're going against, or you will be making a straw man argument where you're arguing against a pretend version of your opponent who's making ridiculous or weak arguments just because it's easier to attack them then. Okay, so a little known or surprising fact can be really good or interesting, an opinion you plan to challenge, a quotation, or another one is a story. Stories are great because humans love stories. We naturally connect with stories. Humans have been telling stories to each other for thousands and thousands of years. And you can choose a well-known story, a story from a folk tale or a myth or a movie that people know, or a Bible story. Or you can choose to tell a story from your own life. But stories create an emotional connection to the issue that you're talking about in your essay. Stories work with all kinds of different audiences, and you can create all kinds of different emotions depending on the story, the point you're trying to make in your essay, and your skill as a storyteller. The only drawback of story hooks is that story hooks can get long. They use a lot of words, and sometimes you might have a hard time connecting your story to the topic. So if you have a time limit or a strict word limit, story is not the best choice. But if your goal is to really get your audience listening and focused on your topic, stories are really good. Another kind of hook, and this is very simple, is simply to explain why the topic is important. Now, this seems almost too simple, but if you chose the topic because you really care about it, you can probably make a strong argument why this topic matters, why it's important. If you have a strong personal connection to the topic, it gives your writing or your presentation a personal meaning, and sharing personal things helps your audience connect with you. So if you have a strong connection to the topic, if you feel this topic is really important, this can be a really simple but direct hook that connects easily to your topic and gets your audience to understand why you care about the topic. So if you have a connection to the topic, I'm here to talk about reducing smoking, and I'm talking about this because my father died of lung cancer when I was little. Now suddenly everybody cares about your topic. If the topic isn't personally meaningful to you, you can explain why the topic is relevant to everyone in the audience. This is important because if the oceans die, we all die, right? Well, this matters for everybody who's in the room here. Okay. Be careful not to simply say this topic is important. That usually isn't convincing to just say smoking health is important. It's much better to make a connection like, well, when I was little, my father died of cancer. So something like smartphone addiction is an important issue is not very good. But a little better is, last semester I almost failed 3 classes because of smartphone addiction. Or to ask your audience if you're doing a presentation, raise your hand if you looked at your phone in the last 5 minutes. Okay, these are ways to get the whole audience thinking about how the topic connects to them. If you do this badly, if you don't convince your audience that the topic matters, then your hook will fail though. Next one is ask a question. Ask a question. Now I know that in writing I said don't directly ask questions to your reader in the writing mechanics video. And usually it's a bad idea to ask a question to the reader. And even in academic writing, I usually don't recommend it. But sometimes the hook is a good way to do it. This is a simple, efficient, and fast way to connect to the main topic. So this is a really good method to use when you have a time limit. It helps your audience focus on your topic, and it helps you focus too, because if you can fit your complex topic into one clear question, that will help you to think more clearly about that topic. The two best ways to do it are to ask a question that connects to your reader's life, like, have you ever lost your phone on the subway? Or to ask a question that your essay will answer, like, how can we protect the oceans? Do not copy and paste the topic the professor gave you and make that your question. Your professor will not be impressed by that, I promise. And if you ask a question so obscure that your audience won't understand or care about it, then your question isn't going to connect with the audience either. So if your question is, which brand of shoelaces are the best for hiking boots? Well, most people don't have an opinion on that, so that question is not going to grab your audience and make them care about your essay or your presentation. These are 6 hooks that you can use to grab your reader's attention. Keep in mind too that these are certainly not the only ways to get your reader's attention. If you think of a way to hook your reader that isn't on this list, go ahead and use it, and good luck to you. I hope it works. These are a few to try if you don't have other ideas, but if you do have other ideas, well, go right ahead. This is the one place in an academic essay where there aren't really any rules, just use whatever works. The first 1 or 2 or maybe 3 sentences of an essay should be the hook, and the goal is to grab your reader's attention and convince them that they want to read the rest of your writing. If you fail to do that, then you've failed as a writer, because your reader won't be persuaded or educated or entertained if they don't read what you wrote. The next section of the introduction is the background information. You need to connect your hook to the main topic, and this is a place where you often give context. You often give context. What's the situation that makes this issue important? You might give a little bit of history. This has been controversial since the 1960s when something happened. Or you might be explaining how your hook connects to the rest of your topic. Shakespeare said that in 1603, but even today, young people have a hard time finding the perfect partner. So there are different ways to connect your topic to your hook to the main topic, but you need to do that. And always remember that if you choose a hook that doesn't fit your topic well, then you have to do more explaining to connect to your main topic. But that's what the background information section is for. If there's a big debate about the topic, you can summarize. Some people say this and other people say this. But you need to connect your hook to the main topic. Okay, that's really important. And after your background information, you introduce the main topic, and you end your introduction with the thesis statement. Okay, a thesis statement is the most important sentence in your entire essay, so we're going to give it a video of its own.